All right, ladies and gentlemen, this will be a video on solving inequalities. Here's our first example. 12 plus 3 times the quantity x plus 1 is less than negative 6 minus 30. Remember that the rule you need to follow as you solve inequalities is that you solve them just as you would any equation, except that if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, then you switch the direction of the inequality sign. So that's a key difference. So anytime you multiply or divide the equation by a negative number, you switch the direction of the inequality sign. So with that in mind, why don't you go ahead and stop the video and try solving this yourself. Then come back and see if you did it correctly. Okay, the first step will be to distribute the factor of 3. So hopefully you did that as your first step. The second step will be to combine like terms. So on the left side, 12 and 3 can be combined to create 15. Our next step will be to go ahead and take this negative 6x and add 6x to both sides. This is an inverse operation because if I have a negative 6x, then adding a positive 6x will remove it from the right side and add it to the left side. So instead of having 3x on the left side, I now have 9x on the left side. The next step will be to subtract 15 from both sides. When I subtract 15 from negative 30, I get 45. Now I simply need to divide both sides by 9, and my solution becomes x is greater than negative 5. So this is my solution, and it graphs on the number line starting at negative 5 and all values that are smaller than negative 5. This should be an open dot since this is not equal to. So this is kind of an open dot, but it was hard to show that. So consider this an open dot at negative 5 since negative 5 is not included as a value. Here's our next example. This is negative 7x is less than x minus 56. Again, the same rule is across the bottom to remind you to only switch the inequality sign if you multiply both sides or divide both sides by a negative number. So pause the video and try this one and then come back and see if you did it correctly. The first step that I suggest is to subtract x from each side so that we can gather all of the x's on the left side of the equation. Since this is a positive x, then I subtract both x from both sides. So that means that I end up with negative 8x on the left, and the x value that was on the right is no longer there. So now I have negative 8x is less than 56. My next step is that I must divide both sides by negative 8. So that means I do need to switch the direction of the inequality sign. So in this next step, I find that I ultimately end up with the value x is greater than 7. So my solution will look like this on the number line. At 7, there's an open circle, and all values that are larger than 7 are the solution set for this equation negative 7x is less than x minus 56.